Let me tell you something about humiliation. It doesn't always come wrapped in scandal or betrayal. Sometimes, it shows up neatly folded inside a birthday card with a smiling cartoon dog and a $10 coupon to Olive Garden. That was my 42nd birthday. Yep, my wife, Rachel, decided that the best way to commemorate the life of the man she once called her rock, her dreamer, her partner in crime, was with a $10 treat-yourself gift, handed to me with the same enthusiasm you'd give someone a parking ticket. No cake, no dinner, just that thin little piece of paper and a smirk. "You can get yourself a nice lunch," she said. Now, I know sarcasm when I hear it. I also know contempt when I see it. And friend, that look on her face? That wasn't forgetfulness. That wasn't stress. That was mockery. That was a woman who thought she'd traded down in life and was letting me know. Funny how love fades into performance art. I played the role of the loser husband. She played the part of the career woman too ambitious for her own vows. And in the middle of it all sat our marriage, like a houseplant someone watered out of guilt once a week. The real kicker? She didn't even look up from her phone when I opened the card. I sat there in our kitchen, staring at the coupon like it had personally insulted my entire bloodline. 10 years of marriage. A decade of memories. And now I was worth less than a takeout pizza. But here's the twist, and it's a good one. I wasn't broke. Oh no. I wasn't jobless, clueless, or spinning my wheels in some midlife crisis. I was just quiet. Methodical. See, while Rachel was chasing promotions and power lunches, I was building. Quietly, patiently, invisibly. I had spent years stacking bricks, metaphorical and financial, and she never noticed. Not once. She was too busy admiring the castle she worked in, Westbridge Consulting. A shiny, shark-infested ivory tower where image was everything and drama was currency. She worshipped that place. Worshipped the people in it, especially one, her boss. The charismatic, bearded, Rolex-wearing, visionary, named Matt Carver. I'd met Matt once. Slick handshake, fake smile, cologne strong enough to fumigate a warehouse. You know the type. The kind of guy who pretends to listen while checking the mirror behind you to make sure his jawline still exists. I never liked him. But Rachel? Rachel adored him. Called him a true leader. Always brought up what Matt said. What Matt thought. What Matt expected. Now, you may be wondering, did I suspect? Yes, of course I did. You can always feel when someone pulls away, like they're leaning out of a hug before you've even touched them. The late nights. The sudden gym obsession. The private little smiles she'd send to her screen when she thought I wasn't looking. But I said nothing. Because I had plans. You see, about 2 years ago, through a friend with deep pockets and deeper grudges, I was presented with a rare opportunity to buy a majority stake in a faltering but high-potential investment group. One of the companies they were quietly planning to acquire? Westbridge Consulting. That same ivory tower my wife climbed like a socialite spider monkey. So I played the part. I let her believe I was a has-been with no ambition. I let her walk past me like I was part of the furniture. And I waited. Fast forward to my birthday. That coupon. That was my green light. That was the confirmation I needed that she'd written me off. That I was now, in her eyes, disposable. Perfect. Because I had just finalized the deal that made me the majority owner of Westbridge. And you better believe I scheduled my first boardroom visit for the following week. And you better believe I knew exactly who I was firing first. Matt Carver. Because let's be honest, when your wife cheats on you, it's not always about the sex. Sometimes, it's about the respect. And respect, my friend, is a currency I will never accept in deficit. So there I was, standing in front of the mirror that morning, adjusting my tie. Not out of vanity, but because I wanted to look into Matt's eyes when I pulled the rug out from under him and say the one thing I've been dying to say since this charade started. Pack your things. Rachel had no idea. She thought I was off to another consulting gig. She kissed my cheek absent-mindedly, grabbed her coffee, and walked out in her tailored blazer and red heels like she owned the world. Little did she know, she worked for me now, and she had no idea what was coming next. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Personally, I like mine boardroom temperature, with a side of stunned silence and a splash of ruined ego. That Monday morning, I walked through the glass doors of Westbridge Consulting for the first time as its majority shareholder. Not a visitor. Not an applicant. Not some nobody waiting in reception. I was the man who held the leash now, and I intended to give it a hard yank. The security guy at the desk looked me over with the kind of suspicion reserved for pizza delivery guys in suits. "Can I help you, sir?" I smiled. Not smug. Just calm. "Yeah. Let your head of operations know Mr. Callahan is here." The new owner. His brow furrowed. His fingers tapped on the keyboard like he was trying to remember how typing works. After a long pause, his eyes widened. "Oh, right. Yes, sir. 1 second." I nodded and walked toward the elevator like I'd done it 100 times before. Truth was, I'd only ever seen this place in Rachel's selfies or in the background of her Zoom calls. Modern, sleek, soulless. The kind of place that talks about culture but has an unspoken dress code for ambition. The boardroom was on the top floor. Naturally, Westbridge folks like to look down on things, metaphorically and otherwise. I walked in and was greeted by the usual suspects. Half a dozen suits trying to decide if I was a threat or a checkbook. A few offered polite greetings. A few squinted like they couldn't quite place me. And then there was Matt. Oh, Matt. The man himself stood at the far end of the table, a tailored navy suit clinging to him like it had a crush. His beard was perfectly manicured, his smile rehearsed to corporate perfection. He took a step forward, extending his hand. "You must be Mr. Callahan." "Matt Carver, CEO." I took his hand, gave it one firm shake, then let go like it offended me. "Pleasure," I said, "though I believe your title is a bit dated." That smile twitched. "What do you mean?" I opened my leather folder, took out the printed statement, and placed it at the center of the table. "Effective immediately, the board has voted to terminate your employment. Cause listed: breach of conduct, conflict of interest, and ethical violations. The kind that come with extracurricular activities." You could hear the oxygen leaving the room. Matt's smile vanished. Just evaporated. His face paled, then flushed, like his skin couldn't decide if it was angry or terrified. "This is ridiculous," he stammered. "I've been leading this company for—" "Leading?" I cut him off. "Or sleeping your way into liability." A pin could have drop-kicked itself through the floor, and no one would have noticed. One of the board members coughed nervously. Another adjusted his tie like it was suddenly choking him. I leaned in just enough for Matt to see the conviction in my eyes. "Here's how this goes. You collect your things. You leave quietly. No grandstanding. No martyr routine. You'll receive a severance package that reflects your original agreement, before your extracurriculars got messy. You break that deal, and the footage goes public. And let me tell you, Matt, the footage is vivid." That shut him up. He looked around like someone might throw him a lifeline. But there were no takers. Just a row of executives who realized, in real time, that the alpha wolf had been replaced, and this new one had sharper teeth. Matt Carver, the man who once strutted around this place like a Wall Street lion, was now just a disgraced ex with a cardboard box and a silent elevator ride to the parking garage. And me? I stayed behind, took his seat at the head of the table. "Let's get started," I said. The meeting went on without a hiccup. Not one person mentioned the ambush. That's corporate life for you. Power changes hands like poker chips, and loyalty is just a name tag you peel off before lunch. But I wasn't done yet. Rachel still didn't know. You see, I wanted her to hear it from someone else first. That moment of confusion. That split second when the world tilts and nothing makes sense. I'd tasted that feeling the day she gave me that $10 coupon. Now it was her turn. So I scheduled a one-on-one with her for the afternoon. She thought it was about a departmental restructure. Ironic, right? She walked in wearing her power heels and her no-nonsense lipstick. The same shade she probably smeared all over Matt's collar more than once. She didn't even glance at me when she walked through the door. "Mr. Callahan, I understand you wanted to discuss the restructuring plans." I looked up. She froze. Her eyes scanned my face. And I watched it happen. Recognition, disbelief, and then something I hadn't seen in her for years. Fear. "Hey, Rachel," I said, calm as Sunday morning. "Long time." Her jaw hung somewhere between shock and denial. You're Mr. Callahan?" "Guilty," I said, standing up slowly. "Though I prefer your husband, for now." She blinked. Her arms dropped to her sides. That practiced confidence slipped like a silk scarf on polished marble. I didn't need to shout. Didn't need to gloat. I just let her sit in it. The realization. The consequences. The absolute unraveling. "You fired him," she whispered. I nodded. "I own the company," I said. "And I just cleaned house." You ever see a person's soul leave their body? No, seriously. Not in some Hollywood dramatic way, but that real, twitch in the eye, all the air just left the room kind of way. That's what I saw in Rachel's face when I told her I owned the company, when she realized I'd fired her lover. When it all hit her at once, like a car crash made of karma and cold-brewed justice. She didn't sit down, didn't speak, just stood there blinking, trying to figure out which part of her well-ordered life just snapped off the hinges. I gave her a moment. I'm not heartless, just methodical. Why? She finally breathed, her voice small, like a kid asking if monsters are real. And man, I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because why is always the last question people ask when they know exactly why. But I gave her the courtesy of an answer. You gave me a $10 coupon for my birthday, Rachel. Her head jerked like she'd been slapped. It was supposed to be a joke, she said too quickly. Yeah. I nodded, stepping around the desk. And cheating on your husband for a year and a half was what? Performance art. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again like her brain was rebooting mid-glitch. Matt was just. Nope. I cut her off. Don't finish that sentence unless you want to embarrass both of us further. Her cheeks flushed. Not the flirty kind of blush she wore when she was charming a room. This was panic. Shame. Fear. And it suited her a lot better than the smug indifference I'd gotten used to. I never meant to hurt you, she said, voice trembling. I cocked an eyebrow. That's the most cowardly sentence in the English language. Right up there with it just happened, and we didn't mean anything by it. She looked like she wanted to sit, like her knees were threatening to quit on her. So I pulled out the chair across from mine and motioned to it. She sank down, spine folding like a lawn chair. What happens now? She asked, barely above a whisper. I leaned on the edge of the desk, arms folded, watching her with the kind of patience a man earns only after being humiliated in silence for over a year. What happens now, I repeated, is we talk like grown-ups. You remember how to do that, right? She flinched. Good. I slid a plain white envelope across the desk toward her. She stared at it like it was radioactive. What's this? She asked. That's the clean version, I said. Divorce papers. No public scandal. No social media fallout. Just sign, and we both walk away with what we deserve. She reached out with trembling fingers, but didn't touch the envelope. I'll get a lawyer. You'll need one, I nodded. But don't waste your time playing hardball. I've got everything I need. Emails. Security footage. A record of Matt's company card being used at hotel bars. The works. Her lip quivered, but she blinked the tears away. For a moment, she looked like the woman I married. Not the cold, detached stranger she'd become, but the person who used to bring me coffee in bed and steal my fries when I wasn't looking. Too bad that woman left the building a long time ago. You set all this up, she said, more accusation than question. You set it up, I corrected. I just followed your blueprints. I didn't destroy this marriage. I just documented the demolition. Silence sat between us. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Earned. Do people know? She asked, eyes wide. No. Not yet. But they will if you try to make this messy. She nodded slowly, like her entire world had just shrunk to the size of that envelope. I never stopped loving you, she said, voice cracking. And I just stared. Because that sentence? That one. That's what people say when they want to rewrite the story they already burned to ash. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out over the city, my city now. The skyline didn't care about broken vows or coupon birthdays. It just stood there, quiet and unbothered, like it had seen this 1,000 times before. You love the version of me you could control, I said without turning around. Not the man I am. Silence again. I finally turned back to face her. I'll have the papers delivered to your apartment. Not our house. You'll need to arrange for your things to be picked up next week. Please don't be there when I change the locks. She stood, slow and shaky. Her heels suddenly seemed too high, her dress too bright, like a spotlight on a ghost. And before she left, she paused at the door. I didn't think you had it in you. That made me smile. Just a little. I did, I said. You just weren't looking. The sound of her heels clicking down the hallway lingered longer than she did. Rachel was gone. Not metaphorically. She'd left that marriage long ago. I mean, she physically exited the boardroom, walking out of the building I now owned, trying to keep her composure like she hadn't just watched her perfectly curated double life implode. I gave her credit, though. She didn't beg, didn't scream. She left the way she'd lived lately, calculated and cold, which, frankly, made it easier for me to do what came next. I sat back down in that leather boardroom chair, Matt's old throne, and cracked my knuckles. I had some final adjustments to make. First stop? HR. You see, when your soon-to-be ex-wife and her not-so-secret boy toy have been mixing business with betrayal, there's paperwork to deal with. And lucky for me, I now had a very intimate relationship with the people who file it. I met with Jenna, the head of human resources. Smart woman. Straight shooter. Wore glasses that made her look like she could file your taxes and your soul. She looked up from the stack of documents I'd emailed her at midnight the night before. "You're sure you want to do this?" she asked. "Positive." She nodded and handed me a folder. All the documentation's in place. NDA, severance terms, cause for dismissal on Carver. And, well, your wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. She gave me a tight smile. Right. I stood, adjusted my tie, and exhaled. You ever feel the weight of something lifting and realize it's been crushing you for years? That was me, standing in the office of the company my wife once idolized, now holding the keys to the kingdom. Funny thing is, I never cared about power. Never wanted revenge in the movie slow motion walking away from an explosion way. I just wanted peace. And now I had it. But peace comes in strange forms. Sometimes, it looks like a hollow boardroom in an empty apartment. Back at home, our home, her absence was loud. She hadn't moved anything out yet, but you could feel the ghost of her. The closet still held her blazers, hung perfectly by color. The bathroom counter had her overpriced skincare army still lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. Her side of the bed? Neat. Unbothered. Probably because it hadn't been slept in for months. I made a drink. Just one. Sat down on the couch and stared at the $10 coupon she'd left in the drawer next to the fridge. I'd kept it. Not because I'm sentimental, but because it was proof. Proof of the moment she decided I wasn't worth more than $10 and an offhand insult. And now? She was getting a severance package. One apartment in her name, one lump sum payout to walk away without noise, and one non-disclosure agreement thicker than her concealer. I didn't even need revenge anymore. I'd already won. The next few days passed in a haze of meetings, calls, and fake smiles. You'd be amazed how quickly people pivot when they find out the quiet guy in the corner now owns the place. Suddenly, everyone's got your name memorized and your coffee order perfected. One exec who hadn't looked me in the eye during negotiations now wanted to play golf. Another who used to talk over me in meetings sent me an apology email 3 paragraphs long. Corporate guilt is delicious, especially when served lukewarm with a side of regret. I let Rachel take the weekend to move her things. Didn't want a scene. Didn't want to see the moment she realized she'd lost something she couldn't get back. On Sunday night, I walked back in. The house felt different. No perfume cloud in the bathroom. No half-finished oat milk latte on the counter. Just silence. And you know what? It was beautiful. I found her note on the kitchen island. One of those, "I hope someday you forgive me" deals. Handwritten, probably to make it feel more human. It didn't. I read it once. Twice. Then tossed it in the fireplace. Forgiveness is for people who slipped. Rachel jumped. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And choices have consequences. Later that week, a mutual friend texted me. "You okay?" I replied, "Better than okay. Just wondering what to do with all this peace and quiet." They sent back a thumbs-up emoji and a gif of Morgan Freeman nodding. Fair. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't heartbroken either. You lose your heart when someone breaks your trust. But after it's broken enough times, you stop handing it out like a rental car. You start keeping it parked where only the right person can earn the keys. Rachel? She gave my keys to someone else. So I took the whole damn garage. People always ask, does she regret it? Let me put it this way, the apology came exactly 17 days after she moved out. Not a day sooner, not a minute earlier. And I don't think it was regret so much as realization, like a kid who let go of a balloon and then remembered it was full of money. Her message was short. 5 words, no punctuation. Can we please talk soon? Now I don't know about you, but when a woman who called your life a waste of potential suddenly wants to talk, it's not love. It's strategy. And I don't do strategy games anymore, not when I already won. I left her on read. Cold? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about surviving betrayal. There's a second betrayal right behind it. The one where they try to act like it wasn't that bad. Like their choices were just a temporary lapse in judgment instead of a deliberate demolition of trust. Like it was a hiccup, not a hurricane. But Rachel? She didn't trip and fall into Matt Carver's lap. She swan dived off the high board. Now, While she was adjusting to life in a rented apartment with white walls and cheap furniture, I was settling into my new rhythm. Our company, had bounced back faster than expected. Apparently, firing a liability and setting clear standards does wonders for morale. Who knew? I had people coming into my office just to thank me. Thank me for taking out the trash, for giving the company direction, for doing what everyone knew needed to be done but never had the spine to attempt. One intern said, "It's like the office finally exhaled." Yeah, that's the thing about dead weight. Once you drop it, everything moves easier. But Rachel, she wasn't adapting so well. First came the social withdrawals. We shared a circle of friends. Well, she dominated it, to be honest. Dinner parties, wine nights, the kind of clique that praises each other's choices while quietly competing behind the scenes. But when word got out that she'd been fired and divorced in the same 48 hours, crickets. Her social calendar cleared itself faster than a fire drill. Apparently, people don't like sitting next to someone who's both betrayed their husband and lost her power. Turns out, status was the glue holding her together. And now that it was gone, people couldn't look her in the eye. Then came the Matt fallout. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, Matt was married too. And unlike me, his wife didn't take the high road. She brought napalm. She went public, got a lawyer with fangs, and released just enough dirt to make sure his name was dead in the water. The man went from CEO to social leper in less than a month. Rachel tried to reach out to him, of course. You could tell she thought maybe they could rebuild. But Matt? He ghosted her faster than I did. I heard he moved to Austin and started some kind of men's wellness brand. The man went from corporate titan to influencer faster than you can say midlife crisis. Now she was really alone. No Matt. No marriage. No career. Just a woman in a yellow dress looking in the mirror and wondering when exactly it all went wrong. She sent me another message. This one was longer. I know I messed up. I don't expect forgiveness. I just miss what we had. I miss you. If nothing else, I'd like to apologize in person. Please. Let me tell you, 5 years ago I'd have read that and melted. 3 years ago I'd have screamed. A year ago I'd have stared at the ceiling all night wondering if I should answer. But now I just felt tired. Tired of pretending broken people don't break things. Tired of handing out grace like Halloween candy. So I replied, not to start anything, just to end it properly. Rachel, I appreciate the message. I really do. But what we had died a long time before you ever kissed him. You just gave it a proper burial. There's nothing left to discuss. I wish you peace. Goodbye. She replied once more. I deserve that. Yes, she did. A few nights later, I was sitting on my balcony, sipping a neat bourbon, watching the skyline glow like 1,000 tiny second chances. And I realized something. I wasn't just moving on. I was rising. And while she was busy regretting, replaying, re-editing her life to try and make sense of it, I was finally, fully, unapologetically living mine. No coupon necessary. People think peace is quiet. It's not. Peace is loud, deafening even. It's the sound of not checking your phone every 5 seconds. The sound of not wondering who they're texting. The sound of locking your front door at night without double-checking your life decisions. I didn't fill the void Rachel left. I expanded into it. Started running again. Bought a second-hand Harley just because I'd always wanted one and she always wrinkled her nose at the idea. Spent entire weekends riding with nobody asking when I'd be back. I wasn't rebuilding. I was building. Turns out the foundation was there all along. Just had to tear down the rotted parts first. Word eventually got back to me. Rachel had a new boyfriend. A life coach. You can't make this up. The same woman who used to scoff at my sentimentalism now dated a guy who thought vision boards were therapy and wore bracelets with wooden beads. When I heard about it, I didn't feel the pang of jealousy I'd braced for. I just shook my head, took a sip of coffee, and went on with my day. You see, once you've been through the fire, you stop getting burned by birthday candles. The replacement wasn't a threat. He was just a reflection. A mirror showing her what she valued now. Surface. Hype. Faux healing. Not my problem. I met Ella at a bookstore. Cliché, right? There I was, flipping through a weathered copy of East of Eden, when she walked into the aisle wearing jeans and a leather jacket that somehow made her look both dangerous and approachable. She smiled at me. I nodded back. No pickup lines. No rehearsed speeches. Just two people who both reached for the same copy of Slaughterhouse-Five and laughed about it like a bad rom-com. We talked for an hour standing there, surrounded by dusty shelves and the smell of old paper. She didn't ask about my job title. She didn't seem impressed or unimpressed. She just listened. And when I mentioned I was divorced, she shrugged and said, "Takes guts to start over." Guts. Not failure. Not shame. Guts. Maybe it sounds small, but after years of being measured by my usefulness, it felt enormous. Rachel tried one last time. I guess misery has a way of convincing people that maybe the fire hydrant they kicked might still have water. She invited me to lunch, just to talk. A neutral place. A closure meeting. I agreed. Not because I needed closure. Because I deserved to see, face to face, what peace looks like when it's wearing my jacket and sipping black coffee across from guilt. She apologized. Again. For the betrayal. For the distance. For the smugness. For the coupon. Especially the coupon, she said, trying to laugh, but the sound died halfway out of her mouth. I listened. Politely. At the end, she asked, "Is there any part of you that still loves me?" And here's the thing. I didn't lie. I didn't gloat. I didn't soften it. I just said, "I love the man I had to become because of you. But no, Rachel, I don't love you." She nodded, swallowed whatever pride she had left, paid for her own coffee, and left. That was the real goodbye. Not with slammed doors or screaming fights. Just a quiet handshake between two people who used to be everything to each other, and now weren't even memories worth keeping. Today, my life is simple. Not easy. Not painless. Simple. Ella's still around. We take it slow. No performances. No trophies. Just two people who know what it feels like to be shattered, and still choose to build something real. The company's thriving. I bought a cabin by a lake. Sometimes I sit out there with a whiskey and a good book and wonder how I ever thought a coupon was the worst thing she could give me. Truth is, it was a gift. Because the life I have now, it's not built on obligation. It's built on choice. On freedom. On earned peace. Rachel once thought she could define my worth by what I had, or didn't have. Turns out, I'm worth exactly what I decide I am. And buddy, I decided I'm priceless.